this point in the night, the facility has gone completely still. Steam no longer rises from the stacks. The cooling pond rests beside the concrete walls. Nothing here is preparing to change. You don't need to observe anything closely. The words can remain in the background. Like water holding heat without movement, the pond stretches wide and flat. Its surface reflects the dim safety lights. No ripples cross it. The water feels heavy and calm. Concrete edges frame the pond evenly. Warning stripes fade into darkness. Railings remain untouched. Nothing approaches the edge. A faint warmth lingers above the surface. Not visible, only suggested. The night air holds it quietly. Across the pond, the power station stands silent. Windows remain dark. Doors stay closed. No systems cycle. No alarms sound. Small lights mark pathways along the perimeter. They glow steadily. They do not flicker. Their reflections rest in the water, then dissolve again. Time begins to loosen here. No shift changes are marked. No routine advances. The night feels evenly spread across the site. The pond does not drain. It does not fill. Levels remain exact. Nothing corrects itself. Occasionally, a slow movement passes beneath the surface. Not a wave, just a gentle settling. It fades without trace. The concrete holds its temperature. Warmth from the day remains locked inside. The air does not cool further. Everything feels balanced. Beyond the fence, fields remain dark. No vehicles pass. No lights approach. Distance stays quiet and unused. The station does not announce completion. It does not prepare to restart. It simply remains in its resting state, contained, idle. The water continues to hold heat, not releasing it, not drawing attention. The surface stays smooth. Lights along the pond maintain their spacing, even, measured. They mark boundaries, not motion. Time stretches again. Moments rest without sequence. Nothing urges them forward. The pause feels sufficient. No sound crosses the sight. Even the night feels muted here. Everything absorbs itself. The space feels sealed. The pond remains open and still. The station remains dark. The air remains steady. No part presses for change. There is no sense of arrival, no sense of departure, only continuation. The night holds the facility in place. The cooling pond stays calm. The concrete stays warm. The lights stay on. Everything holds its position, quiet and undisturbed, through the long, controlled hours before morning. The pond remains unchanged beside the station. No current forms, no surface breaks. The water keeps its calm shape. Reflections hold steady across the surface. Lights appear as soft lines. They do not stretch, they do not fade. Nothing disturbs them. The concrete edge stays warm to the touch. lingers from earlier hours. It does not rise. It does not dissipate. The balance holds. Across the site, the building remains silent. No doors open, no systems engage. The structure feels settled into rest. A faint haze hovers just above the water. Not steam, not mist. Just a subtle difference in temperature, barely visible, barely present. The fence around the pond stays untouched. Warning signs remain fixed. No shadows cross the ground. The perimeter holds its line. Time continues without markers. No shift bells, no timers. Moments rest beside one another without direction. The water level remains exact. No adjustment follows. No correction is needed. The surface stays flat and even. Lights along the path maintain their spacing, each glow identical, each reflection quiet. They do not guide movement, they simply remain. Beyond the fence, the fields stay dark. Grass does not bend. The distance feels unused. Nothing approaches the site. The station does not react to the night. It does not signal readiness. It does not reset. It remains in its idle state, complete and contained. The pond absorbs every sound. Even the quiet feels softened. Nothing carries across the water. The space feels insulated. A slow settling occurs beneath the surface. Not a ripple, just a minor shift. It disappears before forming a pattern. The air above the pond stays still. No breeze moves through it. No temperature change follows. Everything remains stable. The concrete paths remain empty. No footsteps appear. No wheels pass. The ground holds its silence. Time loosens further. Moments flatten. The night feels evenly spread across the site. No sequence forms. The lights continue their soft glow. Not bright, not dim. Enough to define edges, nothing more. The pond remains open. The station remains dark. The air remains steady. No process resumes. Nothing announces an ending. Nothing prepares a beginning. The scene stays balanced, complete without conclusion. The cooling pond continues to rest. The facility continues to sleep. The night continues to hold. Everything stays aligned, quiet and controlled through the deep hours before morning. The pond continues to hold its surface without change. No waveforms, no reflection shifts. The water keeps its quiet weight. Lights along the perimeter remain evenly spaced. Their glow stays constant. Their reflections sit calmly on the surface. Nothing stretches or pulls them apart. The concrete border keeps its shape. Warmth remains locked inside it. The air above does not cool further. The balance stays intact. Across the site, the station remains inactive. No panels light up. No doors respond. The building feels settled into its pause. temperature lingers above the pond, not visible enough to notice, not strong enough to move. It remains part of the stillness. The fence stays exactly where it stands. Signs remain readable. No shadow crosses the ground. The boundary feels complete. Time continues without signal. No marker divides one moment from the next. The night spreads evenly. Nothing urges it forward. The water level remains unchanged. No intake begins. No release follows. The surface stays flat and controlled. Lights along the path continue their soft glow, each identical to the last, each reflected gently below. They mark edges, not direction. Beyond the fence, the fields stay dark. No sound travels across them. No movement appears. The distance remains unused. The station does not prepare to wake. It does not cycle. It remains in its resting state, idle, contained. The pond absorbs every sound. Even the quiet feels muted. Nothing carries across the water. The space feels insulated. A subtle settling passes beneath the surface. Not a disturbance, just a slow adjustment. It fades before leaving a trace. The air remains still. No breeze forms. No temperature shift follows. Everything holds steady. Concrete paths remain empty. No footsteps, no wheels. The ground stays untouched. Time loosens further. Moments flatten into one another. The night feels continuous. No sequence forms. The lights remain on. The water remains calm. The building remains dark. Nothing resumes. There is no signal of change, no cue for movement. The pause feels sufficient. Nothing is missing from it. The cooling pond stays quiet. The facility stays at rest. The night stays open. Everything remains exactly as it is, balanced and undisturbed, deep into the remaining hours of night. The pond remains still as the night holds its depth. Nothing shifts along the surface. No reflection breaks. The water keeps its calm weight without effort. The lights continue their quiet glow. They do not signal time. They do not suggest movement. They simply remain where they are. Concrete edges keep their warmth. The heat does not rise. It does not fade. It stays contained within the structure. Across the site, the station stays dark. No internal system prepares. No cycle begins. The building rests without anticipation. The air above the pond feels settled, not cooling, not warming, just stable enough to disappear from notice. No sound carries across the water. Even distance feels muted here. Everything absorbs itself. The space feels complete. Time no longer feels like progression. Moments do not lead anywhere. They rest evenly beside one another. No sequence forms. The pond does not release its heat. It does not draw attention to it. It simply holds, steady, contained. Lights along the perimeter maintain their spacing. Each reflection remains clear. None drift or distort. The surface accepts them quietly. Beyond the fence, darkness stretches outward. Fields remain unused. No movement reaches the edge of the site. The distance stays empty. Nothing signals a transition. No sound marks a change. The pause remains sufficient on its own. The facility continues to sleep. The water continues to rest. The air continues to hold still. No part presses forward. There is no sense of ending here. No moment that resolves. Only continuation without effort. The scene remains intact. The cooling pond stays calm. The concrete stays warm. The lights stay on. Everything holds its position, quiet and undisturbed, as the night continues to carry itself.